Hello and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Alliance. Of course, I'm your host Clay, and with me today is, of course, Katie. That is my phone. I do apologize. Um, Katie, we actually have not for the first time, but it seems that there is some Star Wars discourse. When is there not Star Wars discourse? But Star Wars
Oh yeah.
discourse over. Who the best Jedi is, specifically surrounding one individual character, which I can see the debate for and against this. Um, Travis Snell made a really good point on one of them. Um, but that's going to be a topic of discussion today. That topic being, is Anakin Skywalker the best Jedi? I feel like that is a very controversial conversation. Um, because I think there's a lot of people that say no, and that's what makes it controversial. But I know that there's a lot of people that might also say yes, which is also controversial. Um, so it's gonna be really, really fun to hear your side of that. We got Emmy nominations this morning. Regarding a lot of Lucasfilm stuff. We will be breaking down and talking about the Ahsoka trailer. Um, both Katie and I have our tinfoil hats on fully. After that trailer, we had a small text conversation yesterday about one of the beloved characters that we'll be talking about in our season two a recap of Rebels, which is of course our is going down the journey of Rebels to of course get us prepared for Ahsoka. So, Katie, are you ready to dig into this?
Yes, let's go. I realized I hadn't said anything other than laughed. So, hi guys. Sorry, I was tweeting, trying to be more productive with my tweets, which by the way, neither of us tweeted about our Rise of the Red Blade review last week. That is up and active for everyone. So we're gonna be tweeting that tomorrow with all of the highlights from other people's reviews.
Yes.
Um, so you can go check those out. But obviously, we had Tarkin's Top Shelf, Mindock Manor. Um, oh my gosh, I can't remember. Oh, I will have it. I will have it. I promise. Um, we had a lot of people participate in like feedback and stuff on the book.
And of course
Full of
the
Sith
book,
was the other
yes.
podcast.
Yes. And of course the book does not come out for another 6 days. I believe it is out on the 18th. So remember, if you want to wait, you can definitely wait and then listen to it, or you can listen to it and then kind of, read the book at your own with all spoilers already known. And we
Yep.
were vague on one particular part of the story just because we think it was probably the biggest in terms of character development. And so we kept that kind of hidden, but we went ahead and talked about a lot of things in that book. um, so yeah, it was a very, very fun discussion. um and honestly, the conversation around the doom and gloom of the book was very, very interesting. That's the most teaser I will give you for that review. So Katie, Emmy nominations, I was not able to look at all of these, but we know that Andor has some. Um, but controversially, we didn't see Diego Luna at all get a
We
nomination.
didn't see any actor nominations, which sucked because I Andor had the most amazing cast involved. And like I was saying, like if Andy Serkis doesn't get a nomination, I will be so mad, and I am mad. And Chris brought up a very good point. It's all about where you push people for the nominations, what you have them listed as. Um, and so like the the criteria for the Emmys is just very technical. So you do have to be like aware of how everything's gonna go. So it does suck, but obviously, Last of Us got some great nominations. They, I think, were second in the nominee list.
Hmm.
Um, the first place was Succession, which had its final season. So I think Succession had 27 nominees,
Holy
and
cow.
yeah, and The Last of Us had 24. So lot of nominations. So
Yeah.
good job HBO. Way to go. Max, whatever you want to call yourselves. Hmm. All right. So for Star Wars, outstanding drama series and/or outstanding limited or anthology series, Obi-Wan Kenobi. So they did get nominations in those categories, which is superb. Outstanding cinematography was given to The Mandalorian Chapter 20, The Foundling, and Andor Rick's Road. And obviously I'm saying given to, but like these are nominations. The Emmys right now are scheduled for September 18th. That could be pushed though with the strikes.
Yeah.
Happy Strike Eve to the Actors Guild if it actually happens. I don't know.
I think
The
that should be a
Mandalorian,
topic of discussion also, by the way.
yeah,
I think we could talk about what was said about the Writers Guild and everything else, but we'll talk about after the Emmys.
yeah, we could totally do that. Mandalorian chapter 22 got costuming, directing for Andor Rick's Road, picture editing, Obi-Wan Kenobi Part 6, um, outstanding character hairstyling, chapter 19, The Convert. It's very interesting to have hairstyling as a nominee when the Convert, correct me if I'm wrong, was Bo-Katan getting involved in the cult where they all wear masks and headgear, right? Am I wrong?
I I think so. I would have to double check. But if that's the case, I mean, I guess Bo-Katan's hair was just really on point, you know?
Yeah, I guess. Could be. Chapter 22 Guns for Hire got outstanding makeup that is non-prosthetic. Rick's Road for Andor has had a lot of nominations. It got musical composition. And then music composition for a documentary series or special was Light and Magic was nominated for Gang of Outsiders. I'm gonna start going quicker through these because obviously these are a lot and very technical
Yeah.
names for these. Okay, so main title theme music, Andor. I can agree with this one
I can
wholeheartedly.
agree with that one, yes. Now, these would be considered technically what are they called? The above the line and below the line. These are all the below the line nominations,
Yeah,
correct? All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I think the only above the line, which would be like acting wise, would be like the outstanding drama, outstanding limited series
Yeah,
um nominations. Okay, so Andor and Mandalorian both got nominated for sound editing. Obi-Wan Kenobi did as well. Uh
I can totally
sound
agree with that.
mixing,
I can
yeah.
agree with that.
Sound mixing for Obi-Wan and Mando. Visual effects in a season for Andor. And then okay, final final ones. Stunt coordination, Mandalorian. Outstanding stunt performance, Mandalorian. And then outstanding writing. And if this does not win, I don't know what else
Is
will.
is it Andor?
Yeah, Andor, and it's the One Way Out episode.
Oh,
So
it needs to win. It
if it
needs to
doesn't
win.
win, what
Oh
else is
man.
nominated? Okay, I gotta look this up because
Uh,
we gotta see.
you have to if there's a Last of Us episode, you have to tell me which episode because I think I already know which episode they would probably nominate for.
Okay, so The Last of Us was long time.
Oh shoot. Long time. I can't remember which episode that was.
While you look that up, I'm gonna tell everybody the rest of them. Bad Sisters, The Prick. I've never heard of that TV show. Better Call Saul had 2 episodes, Point and Shoot, and Saul Gone. Succession had Connor's wedding, and The White Lotus had Arrivederci.
Yeah, so it was the episode that I thought it was. I thought it was named something else, but uh long time was Last of Us episode 3, which was really the one episode that broke everybody's heart. That's
Right,
the
that was the one with Offerman and
yes.
everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that makes total sense. Um that's going to be rough. I don't know which one I want to win more, to be completely honest. Last of Us was such a good series. I know, Katie, unfortunately, you were unable to watch it due to, the spookies, and that's okay.
with
It's
with the strike coming and us probably being out of television at some point, Matt may in fact force me to watch it. We will see what happens. But I will report back.
that I need Matt to at least record one reaction out of you. I need at least one, and we might put it on Patreon. Um,
May,
but yeah,
may, maybe we should do like like just drunk watching The Last of Us. Um that okay. Geese Chasing Squirrels. I don't know if you listen to the Rise of Skywalker watch along.
oh,
We
it's
were all drunk off our asses for that episode.
I don't remember that episode. I don't
It
remember
was
listening to it.
that the other the other thing. I fell asleep in the middle of Empire Strikes Back.
I remember
But
that one. Yeah.
yeah, I was in the middle of like working and going to school at the same time, so it was just an exhausting time. Um, but yeah, Rise of Skywalker, that's a really fun episode. I got into several arguments with Nathan and Greg. Um, just as if anybody wants to go look that episode, because it was a hot mess.
But
But that's why I
uh
was saying drunk watch along because then you get my real reaction.
no, but speaking of you spoke about it very briefly, the writers strike and the eve of the actors strike right now. Um if you guys haven't seen lately, there has been conflicting reports, updates on articles and stuff about some quotes that are being taken and taken back from executives and whatnot. The latest thing we had heard was that executives are basically going to wait until writers start losing their homes. Was the essential, meat and potatoes of the quote.
Yeah.
Um, there has been an update on one article. I believe it was a Deadline article that started it all. Um, that there was a representative for the executives that said, "Oh, that person who gave you that quote does not represent us," and blah blah blah. And we're trying to
Hmm.
get everything solved as quickly as possible. And I'm seeing from a lot of the writers that I follow within the guild are seeing this as basically a fear mongering tactic, both sides, to confuse the writers and to wear them out and stuff. Um, it's crazy out there. Um, I don't know how much longer, honestly, because I think we had this discussion on at least one of our GOA crossovers. I know I've had it with several people. I'm like these people eventually do have to pay bills and everything else. Like I don't personally know everybody's financial situation. You may have to be pouring into your savings. You may have to be, you know, moving in with a friend or family and whatnot. But like things are going to get worse before they get better, I think. Um, we had also heard that the Netflix executive, Disney executive, and WB executives um, met with a mediator in order to make the negotiations go by quicker. I think that is absolutely hilarious. When
Specifically with the Actors Guild.
yeah,
They're not
specifically with
looking to bring a mediator in for the Writers Guild.
to the writers, which I think is so stupid because again, it's essentially the same thing that we've said since the beginning. Just pay them what they want. It's not like they're saying, "Hey, Zaslav, you can no longer have a paycheck. Hey, Iger, you can no longer have a paycheck." It's still, "Hey, You can still have millions of dollars. We just want some of the money.
They're they're asking for what amounts to about 2% of profits for shows.
Yeah.
They're looking for an increase. And y'all, I'm sorry if I'm crocheting and that offends you, but it's helping me focus right now. So I got a lot going on in my brain. So I promise I am focusing. Um, so they're what they're asking for is 2% more profits. And like if you look at it with like their salaries, I think they had calculated and it was like, okay, if each CEO gave up like $5 million of their paycheck, just their paycheck, not that they couldn't find this money anywhere else in like profits or anything, just if they gave it out of their paycheck, they would have um they would accomplish basically what the Writers Guild is asking for. And obviously that doesn't include stuff like the AI worries and everything, but it's like, okay, come on. Is it really unreasonable? And I know a lot of people are like, well, if you don't like the terms of what Hollywood is like driving for in contracts, then don't work for them. And that's exactly what they're doing right now, people. So if you
Yeah.
have a problem with them going, hey, I want to change my contract, that is like obviously the unions are there to protect them and everything, but like with it being a union world, like you can't just go find somebody else. Everybody has to be employed by the union. And so it'll be interesting to see because I know like a lot of a lot of studios were going, "Oh yeah, we'll just go overseas and we'll go find other writers and stuff." And I know several of like several countries with their governing bodies and stuff for their entertainment sections have gone, "Hey, don't get involved with the US right now. Like just don't touch it. Basket of worms, not worth it. Can of worms, whatever." Um, and especially with like the quote that happened, like it's a huge scare tactic. Um, and I don't think it was just a scare tactic for the Writers Guild strike. I think it was also a scare tactic for the actors strike because like the actor strike is coming, so it was like, okay, you make a decision, then we're just gonna walk away until you lose your home. Like, is what they're trying to push the Actors Guild to make.
Yeah.
So it'll
It's
be interesting to see what happens tonight.
it is very interesting because I mean, everybody says, okay, you have Chat GPT, you have AI to replace writers. What exactly do you have to replace actors? Um, I know you have all of those individuals that are very young that are like, oh, this is my chance to, make it big in Hollywood, and you will definitely see those being taken advantage of. To be completely honest, um, but if anybody has ever seen, there is a beer commercial that is completely made by AI out there on Twitter, on YouTube. Just go check out beer commercial AI, and every single person that's generated by AI looks absolutely atrocious and terrifying. You can't use AI to that extent. We've seen it, of course, we've seen it before with Luke Skywalker in
Mhm.
in Mando, or technically Boba Fett. Like, so we know that it can be done, but to do it to that extent, I think would be very noticeable. And it is a little bit of like a scary time right now to think of that. But I think that eventually there will be some sort of breakdown on the studio's part, and we will eventually get these writers back to work. So hopefully,
And my hope is that especially with the actors that we've seen striking with the Writers Guild and we've seen a lot of SAG afters supports the WGA and the WGA has come out and said we support whatever SAG after wants to do. My hope is that SAG would go, okay, we need to come to the back to the table, but you also need to go back to the Writers Guild because I think that's going to be a big thing with what they're trying to accomplish is like, hey, we don't want to work on anything AI related. And if the actors come back to the table and um the writers can't get a meeting with the studios because the studio's not even meeting with the Writers Guild right now. They are just basically like, yeah, you're gonna have to offer up a meeting. And like the WGA is offering up meetings, but the studios aren't coming back to them. So
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, the article that had the, yeah, we want to put, like, we want to wait until the Writers Guild is desperate and losing their apartments and losing their homes. The article said, like, they were looking at, like, October for a time frame potentially for that. Because most people, like, and now that this is maybe not realistic right now, but like everybody's goal, right? And like your budgeting stuff is like 6 months emergency expenses.
Yeah,
It's
I would say that's about correct. And given that time frame, we saw the strike start late May, early June. So
it
October
was
is a
actually it was the first week of May.
was it May? So all of May, June, July, August, September, October. Yeah, so October is that 6 month.
Mhm. So that's what they're hoping for. And obviously like especially with like higher cost of living areas that may not be possible for some of these writers to maintain. But the hope is that they can hold out, and that's what I saw a lot on Twitter today with the writers that I follow, and like some of the critics were retweeting them, like, "Hey, we just need to stay strong, like we got this," kind of thing. So
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Now, do you want to? I feel like let's go ahead and have our discussion over this whole is Luke or is Anakin Skywalker the greatest Jedi or the best Jedi. I don't remember the verbiage that we
I
used
think he's the
in.
greatest Jedi of all time.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it now. It says Dave Filoni says Anakin Skywalker is the greatest Jedi of all time. The reason why I want to go this, I think that just topics wise, we go this conversation, we talk about the Ahsoka trailer, and then that takes us to Rebels, and I think that will flow a little bit better. So,
Yeah,
how do you feel about this whole greatest Jedi of all time discussion?
y'all know how I feel about Dave Filoni. Y'all may call him the. I'm not. I don't believe in that, but like the head of Star Wars storytelling. Um, is what y'all think he is. And I mean, that may be, he may be George Lucas's mystery son that just happened to appear out of nowhere. I don't know. Um, I think he's full of shit here. Like, he may be the most powerful force user of all time. We can state that, I think. Greatest Jedi. No. And I think Snell said exactly what I was thinking. Snell said, I'm sorry, you don't get to kill a bunch of baby Jedi and then be called the greatest Jedi of all time.
Yeah,
That's not how that works.
his exact quote was, "You can say more powerful Force user, but once you kill thousands of kids, you're disqualified." It's like taking steroids in the Olympics. I wouldn't necessarily say it's like taking steroids in the Olympics. Um, it's like killing all the other Olympians and then saying, "Hey, I won the Olympics." Um, that's what it is. Uh, and I would say Anakin was the greatest Jedi before he met Palpatine. I'm gonna put that out there. Um, and then I'm gonna put my hot take. Um, because it's no longer the truth, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it anyway. And then he trained the greatest Jedi. And then we learn in this season of Rebels that we're
We're
gonna
gonna
talk
talk
about.
about it.
Yeah,
I
well,
am no Jedi. You
exactly.
can't call her that.
Exactly. So
Disqualified.
so she is technically disqualified as of right now. But I think that she because for me, the same way that I love Qui-Gon Jinn for him being so in tune to the Force while also knowing himself, while also being on the council and questioning them because of the other two things that he is so well versed in, himself and the Force. Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon Jinn was at one point the greatest Jedi of all time. I think
Yes, I can agree with that.
he had a great way of looking at life, the a perspective of the Force that nobody else had, and he like for me, when I look at Qui-Gon Jinn, I'm like, that is a Jedi. That's how you should look at things. Because we've seen before, and again, spoilers, non-spoilers, just make sure you read the Red Blade and then go listen to our review. We've seen how people look at the council. We've seen
Mhm.
how the council looks at others, and we've seen how the council can make really stupid decisions sometimes. Qui-Gon Jinn knew that.
Yep.
And I just think like, okay, if by chance this is why Disney and Lucasfilm, we need to have that what if Star Wars show. It need like I feel like it would be amazing. But like, what if Obi-Wan died in the Maul fight and Qui-Gon Jinn trained Anakin? That would be a completely different story. Like we would see a completely different Anakin. And I think an
Right, because
Anakin
I think Anakin's issues lie in the hey, we must follow the order to the extent of the law kind of thing. That Obi because and I you talking about Qui-Gon, it makes me really interested to see what you would think about Master and Apprentice, um, by Claudia Gray. Because that
it's
dives
on my
into
list. It's on my list because it because we had the discussion when we were talking about oh my books aren't there anymore. Padawan uh by Kristen White.
Kirsten White, yeah.
Yeah, Kirsten White, sorry. So
The Kirsten
Master
White
and Apprentice is on my list. I'm just waiting until I can get my hands on it.
yeah. It would be interesting to see, I think for sure. Because
Yeah.
I did not like that book at all. So
Really?
yeah, I was
Okay.
not a fan.
Yeah, and I think the conversations of why he's the greatest Jedi, I think that you have a little bit of a push there because he questioned the council and he probably would have made better decisions, kind of, but he went about it in the wrong way. And
Mhm.
that is not Jedi like. So he is null and void there. So you, you have to look at the Jedi in all of their perspectives and what they believe in. And we know that the council was very clouded in their judgments, um, which makes sense to all the other Jedi that didn't necessarily spend all of their time in Coruscant. You know, they weren't completely clouded with their thoughts. So yeah, I think it's a very interesting discussion. Um, I would like I don't know how I feel about actually digging into the replies on this individual thread here. Uh there's some people that are well, let's see right here. Hayden Christensen was one of over 1,500 actors who auditioned to play Anakin Skywalker in Attack of the Clones. He was chosen by George Lucas because he was an actor who has the presence of the dark side. People are just really stupid and saying stupid things. But he still won't be granted the rank of master. He's the greatest Jedi of all time, but he still won't be granted the rank of master. Uh People are saying yes, I agree, totally agree. Other people are saying Qui-Gon Jinn as well. I think that is the better choice in all honesty in this debate. Uh People are posting memes with Anakin saying fuck them kids. It's hilarious. But yeah, uh really fun discussion. I would like to hear from you guys. Who do you think is the greatest Jedi of all time? And there's plenty of them out there. Cal Kestis, Mace Windu, Coyote Mundi, Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Give us your thoughts if you don't think it is Anakin, let us know. If you do, let us know. If you agree with the Qui-Gon Jinn take, let us know. So
Um, for me, as much as I agree with Qui-Gon Jinn, like I've still got Luke Skywalker in my head from like Legends. Legends Luke Skywalker, badass. Like, and I know like everyone wants
it's
to
not
complain.
canon. It's
I
not
know.
canon.
I know.
So
I know.
the next piece of discussion, uh, we had a lot of trailers hit this morning, or was it yesterday? It was yesterday, not this morning. It was
Yeah.
yesterday. Uh,
Uh, was it yesterday? Yeah, it was.
it was yesterday. So, uh, this trailer comes out, and it doesn't have necessarily a lot of new things. Still great to look at. Still looks like
I
a show that I am absolutely going to love to see.
okay, so this is funny. I think it was Mace Windows on Twitter. Um I he asked if this trailer was peak, and I said yes it is, and it is undoubtedly probably the best trailer that Lucasfilm has put out, at least for a Lucasfilm show,
Really?
a Disney Plus show. I 100% think this is the best trailer Lucasfilm has put out. Um, it's just so good, and it goes into like a plot detail, but it introduces all of the characters in such a fascinating way.
Yeah, it gives highlight to uh Hera, of course, Ahsoka, Sabine here. Um, and Sabine has been a little bit of a topic of discussion.
Yes.
Specifically with this trailer and with some things that are said in this trailer. Um, right here, there is some conversation. Uh,
You should put the captions on.
I should put the captions on. Uh, so I was watching the trailer for the very first time, and Hera said something very interesting at this point. Uh, it says, "I bet your master found it difficult to train." Blah blah. Blah. And
Mhm.
Ahsoka says, "Oh, Anakin didn't really get to finish my training." And I was like, "Master, what are you talking about? Sabine is not the apprentice of or Padawan of Ahsoka."
Yep.
And it's this is where the show is leaning with this trailer, that Ahsoka will be training Sabine to know the ways of the Force.
I
And
don't know if she's I don't know if Ahsoka will be training in the show. I think Ahsoka has trained Sabine and Ahsoka walked away. That's what this is saying.
oh, really? I took it the other way. That's an interesting take. Now, see, you said in our conversation that you missed the Purgle. It is literally right there. They're flying all around it. Um,
Oh, the tails.
yeah, tendrils
Oh,
and
okay.
tails. So Katie and I had our own little discussion um off air about all this. Now, right there, it just showed it. Let's move it frame by frame here because this is an awesome still. Yeah, right there.
Love this.
So we see Sabine with a green lightsaber.
Ezra's
Uh,
lightsaber.
Ezra's lightsaber. We also see a hollow that Ezra is talking to somebody, um, and Sabine is watching that hollow. Now, what I brought to the table to our conversation yesterday was I was like, "Oh shit, what if Ezra didn't think he was going to survive? And somehow, because of course, from what we see, Thrawn is here. We don't see Ezra.
Mhm.
Why is that? What's going on? Thrawn gets away, and then you said, yeah. And what if that Inquisitor we see is Ezra? And I was like, well, at least there we know he's alive and he's there. What if
Mhm.
a scarier thought would be, What if Thrawn left him out for dead and he left those hollows hoping that a Jedi could sense him in the Purgles just like he did and hopefully either get rescued or have some sort of knowledge that he's left on the hollows to help save
Yep.
the rebellion or help the rebellion. So, uh, this is a scary thought. To think that we are like, we're finally getting Ezra in live action. And what if it's only to tell us he's dead?
That would be something completely like Lucasfilm to do, I feel like, especially, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but Dave Filoni is always gonna care about Ahsoka more than any other character, I feel like. He wants Ahsoka to kind of Ahsoka and really Captain Rex to be his legacy for Star Wars, I feel
Yeah.
like. Um, and so I think it would be very apt for Filoni to go, "Oh yeah, I really don't have a place for this other character, this other Jedi. I really just want to toss him away." And so kill him off, bring back Thrawn, um, and like succeed in that way. That would suck to me
I
because
would,
everybody has been wondering where Ezra is. And you're gonna kill him off like that. Obviously, we don't know yet,
yeah,
but
obviously we don't know. It was just a very scary thought that I had. I would absolutely hate it. Because I think one of the biggest, hypest moments in Star Wars history will be the day that we see Ezra in live action in current time, wherever that current time is. Of course, now we're several 30, 40 years ahead of time now with movies being in development now. Um but I'm saying in the current time of the story being told, like not a flashback, a current time Ezra, him just lighting that lightsaber or even just shooting from his blaster hilt.
yeah.
Like just seeing that in live
The
action.
blaster hilt got destroyed. We're gonna talk
It
about that.
it did. I completely forgot about that. Um but I think that seeing him in live action, I need for him to be alive. If he ends up being the Inquisitor, it gives us hope that our heroes could turn him back, you know? Um,
I think it's just very telling that I and I think obviously we know Iman Esfandi is playing Ezra in some shape or fashion
yeah.
on live screen. For how long, that's the biggest question. I think it's very telling that that Star Wars themselves have not confirmed that casting.
Oh, so you
Okay,
think that they did not confirm the casting because he is for sure gonna die? Is that what you're saying?
I, I think you have now convinced me, and because I've always been wondering, because the question from everybody after the Rebel season finale was, "Where's Ezra?" It was not "Where's Thrawn?" So
Yeah.
they're either holding it back for that reason, and I mean, I think we're going to get a poster Aman Isfandi as Ezra, like once Ahsoka premieres, but to not have him at the panel, it's very telling to like how much he's in this show. Now it could go for multiple seasons. I think originally this was a limited series.
Yeah.
They could change their mind. And I mean, we've talked about that. Finding Ezra at the very end of the season, going into the next season, going into Heir to the Empire movie,
Yeah.
what could things happen there? I don't know. I really don't know.
I for somebody who always wants the happy ending, I always think of the doom and gloom of it all. um no, but I hope that we get to see our rebels together again. Of course, minus one. Um but we're far away from that in our rewatch. But
A
it's
lot of
going. Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, a lot of people speaking on, like, seeing Rebels all on screen together, a lot of people were asking, "Where's Zeb?" I think Zeb's gonna just takes a lot of work to put together because he's so tall and you have to use that CGI and stuff. So they might have chosen to keep him more of a cameo for like a first and last episode. We do know that he's a pilot with the New Republic, so him not necessarily getting to be a part of the mission does make sense. Um, so yeah. Um, okay,
Now,
let's finish the trailer because I have questions.
yes, well, part of my discussion with the trailer actually has to do with w- actually a part of season 2 of Rebels. And
Okay.
it actually has to deal with this individual right here that's on the screen right now. So
Yes.
so we will get to it when we get to it. But uh as far as the rest of the trailer goes, um there's nothing really there except for this awesome twirling of the freaking lightsaber. I know we saw it in uh what was it? The uh Obi-Wan Kenobi series, but this scene just looks really, really sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really good looking trailer. If you haven't seen it before, go check it out. It is on the Star Wars YouTube channel. But yeah, any final words on that trailer?
So, did you notice kind of the parallels between Count Dooku, saying Qui-Gon Jinn always spoke highly of you, and Anakin always spoke highly of you with Balin?
Oh, I did not. Oh yeah, right there.
Hmm.
Anakin spoke highly of you. Hmm. I really need to see his backstory. I want to know who Balin is. I know a lot of people don't want to see that kind of thing in Star Wars anymore, but you introduce a character, I need to see his motivations. I need to see where he lies, you know?
Yep.
Without it, he is just a nothing character. Um, and that's all. I like that parallel. I did not see it at first. Um, you pointing it out to me, that's really, really cool.
The next question I had, what did you think? Because okay, so we've seen Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Obviously, we've gotten some pictures. We got to see her in the last trailer. But, like, now we're getting her speaking and, like, hearing her talk. So, what is that does that, I guess, sell you on Harris? Because a lot of people were like, "Mary Elizabeth Winstead is Hera," not seeing it. I actually thought she really did a great job pulling off Hera vocally, I think.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how she plays it. Um, Hera is a very uh demanding, strong spoken, but also soft spoken when she needs to be type of character. Um, my thing is, um, I don't believe there would be any reason for her to do it in Ahsoka, but we see it in season 2 of Rebels. Uh,
Mhm,
her original accent comes out. Um, I don't know if I would want to see or hear that in Ahsoka though.
mhm.
Because I'm afraid that if Winstead would try that, I think it would be butchered. And I would just be like, you could have just left it alone and I would be fine, kind of one of those instances. Um, but yeah, I think that it's great. I think that one thing for me though, I did notice there is a scene here in this trailer where she is flying the ghost.
Yep. We got to see the inside of the ghost for the first
We
time
got to see the
in
inside of the
live action.
ghost, but I am pretty sure she is
That's
flying
the
on the
wrong
wrong
side.
side. Yeah,
Just the wrong side. So maybe is she not flying the ghost?
that's what I'm wondering because
Or that could also be the Phantom 2 because right there, that's the Phantom 2. So she could be in the Phantom. So play it.
okay, hold on. I'm gonna zoom out just a little bit and see.
So right there, that's the Phantom 2.
Ah, okay, so she could be driving the Phantom.
Yeah. Phantom 2
Yeah,
specifically.
yeah. That's true. I will need to go back on some episodes of Rebels to see where the pilot seat. Well,
We'll
the
be able to
pilot
talk
seat.
about that in the next season.
Well, oh, for the Phantom too.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true because the original Phantom pilot is front and center. There's no sides to it. So
Yep.
that is true. All right. Well, yeah. It was just one thing that I picked up. I was like, hey, that doesn't look right. So
All right. So next question. Um, in the, in the trailer, and I'm gonna share my screen. Um, because Jordan Mason shared this. So it's got all these like little stones around, and people are thinking this is Malachor, and you've got like a little TIE fighter right there. It looks like.
uh-huh.
So are we going to see her right after Twilight of the Apprentice? Because that's where Ezra pulls her out. So are we gonna get that picture on screen?
Maybe. I don't know. Because, I mean, again, it has not been confirmed, but oh my gosh, actress playing freaking Ahsoka,
Rosario Dawson.
Rosario Dawson, uh, leaked it that she would be working with uh, Hayden
Hayden Christensen.
Christensen. So, do I want to see it? Yes. Do we think we're going to? I don't know. I think it's a big stretch because there is just such a big large gap in time from where this show is taking place
Mm-hmm.
from when she was taking out from uh the world between worlds and then the end of Rebels. Like those are three very large gaps, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From what I think are large gaps. I'm not entirely
So
sure from the ending of Rebels to now.
my understanding is Twilight of the Apprentice takes place. Okay, so that takes place in 3 BBY.
Yes.
So Rebels season 1 takes place in 4 BBY.
Yes.
So she goes missing, and then 3 years later, Ezra picks her up from the world between worlds. So
Mhm.
that's like your 3 year gap. And then to where we're at in Ahsoka, the understanding is it's taking place after Book of Boba Fett. So it's
Okay.
like 11 BBY or ABY, I think.
Okay. So even then, that is so 3, 6, 11-ish. That's like a 5-year gap, a 3-year gap, a total of like 8 to 9 years of like storytelling that you're gonna try to like, hey, this is what happened, and because we also had the discussion of your sister
Mhm.
wanting to watch this show, not watching Rebels, and you saying, okay, let's see if you actually need to watch Rebels in order to
Because that's
fully
what
understand.
everybody said.
If we're getting Malachor and all of this other stuff, I think, unfortunately, and like I may be eating my words, but the one thing that everybody has always said when it comes to a lot of these streaming shows, especially with Disney Plus, that they always rush the last two episodes. They always, there's something about them not really being able to handle the uh the limited amount of time that they have to tell a story. Um
Yep.
if you're going to give us Malachor and all of that, I feel like that is unnecessary stuff and that you probably should have chopped it. Now, am I going to be glad to see it in live action? Yeah, sure. I think it's going to look cool, but I think it's going to be at the cost of how everything wraps up.
So this, and I do have one more question about the trailer, but continuing with this topic specifically, that brings to the question: Ahsoka is premiering 2 episodes on the first day. So is episode 1 going to be a damn it, here's where we're at kind of thing? And we flash back through all the important
Previously on
parts.
Rebels,
I
basically.
mean, really? I Are we surprised if that happens?
No, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Uh but you would have to recap Rebels, you would have to recap Book of Boba Fett, you would have to recap the ending of Rebel. Like you would have to recap a lot of different things. Um
Mhm,
there's also the idea of Rex being a part of this show as well. Like, do you have to recap like the final season of Clone Wars? Like, honestly, like
yep.
you put yourself in such a corner when you do these types of things. Uh when it's a universe. It's a galaxy. You've created a galaxy, an interconnected galaxy, so much so that you write books that you say, "Hey, this is canon." Okay, if you're gonna put it into that perspective, then the cartoon that people always like to say, "Oh, cartoons are for kids," that should be required viewing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't care what any other studio head says, like, "Oh, I don't wanna see that. I wanna see it on this show." Well, it's too damn bad. You we need you
Especially
you need to subscribe to Disney Plus in order to watch Ahsoka anyway, so watch the shows that are on there.
exactly. But especially since, like, there's a particular episode in season 2 of Rebels where Sabina's like, "I wish you just let me kill these people." Like, um, no, okay, so the last question I had about the trailer. We finally get to see the face of Thrawn. What are
Ah,
your
yes.
thoughts?
In HD, by the way, 4K, whatever you wanna say. Um, I still think he is very underwhelming compared to the cartoon animated version of him. Because I think it's more historically universal accuracy when it comes to
Mhm.
his character design in the show compared to what he looks like in real life. Um, and it's gonna be weird. It's just gonna be weird. That I think that with of course you have the idea of like, okay, what kind of budget do we have? Like, could we realistically make this guy's head look a little bit bigger? Give him
Give him a
suave,
fucking wig.
yeah, I
Give
was
him
gonna
a
say
fucking
suave
wig.
hair and stuff like that. Um, so I think the weirdest thing about uh Mickelson as Thrawn in live action is because of the way his facial hair is,
Mhm.
there's always stubble, always. Um, and you can kind of see, like, even when you look at him, he's clean shaven, but you can tell where his beard is. You can tell you can just tell. And it's just that's weird. We I don't think we have not seen a bearded Thrawn in the animated series. We may have seen like something with like a 5 o'clock shadow, maybe. I can't remember.
So what you're thinking of in terms of his 5 o'clock shadow is in fact his contour. Like his jaw is snatched.
Yes, yes, yes.
And like with Mickelson, and like I've even figured this out with like Hera's look. They didn't contour their face at all. They didn't give them any sort of dimension. Hera looks green. Thrawn looks blue. There is no, hey, this is an alien. Like they look like they were face painted. And that's it. There is like if they had just put like a darker navy blue, I think that would have helped so much.
Yeah, I'm looking at him now. It's just he does look odd. Um Again, look at it in the perspective also. This is an older Thrawn, clearly. Time has passed since the ending of Rebels and now. He was completely hurled into space in hyperspace with through portals. So, that could probably do a number on you as well. Um I just it's just gonna be weird. And we spoke briefly on his discussion about how like, oh, there's a certain thing that I did with Thrawn's voice in animation that I had a hard time, connecting with in live action and imitating and stuff. So I think it's even gonna sound different, like, which is weird. It's the same person and it's gonna sound different. Um, and so
Yeah.
I don't know how great of a choice this was to give him the role, but of course we will watch it either way. We're gonna see how it goes. Um, I mean, this is also just me as a person who despises Thrawn outside of the animated series of Rebels. So, you know, we'll see how I feel about this interpretation of the character.
Yes. Yes, we will. Um, though I imagine he's going to be closer to the rebels' perspective than anything because it's Filoni who's writing. So
Yeah, very, very true. But I believe that brings us to a close on the trailer conversation.
it does. It does
And
indeed.
that brings us to our Rebels season 2 recap discussion. I have the episodes and a synopsis of each one here, and I think it's more so like the entire freaking uh plot of each freaking episode. Um, but uh where do you want to start with it? Now, last episode, what we did is we talked about the individual characters, how we felt about them in season 1, and then we discussed the required viewing in our understanding of what you need to do as far as homework for the Ahsoka series in August. And I think we'll do the exact same. So, uh,
Okay.
Katie,
You start us off with which character you want to go for. I because I led it last time.
okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and go with the character with I think the least amount of development this season, and I'm gonna go with Sabine. Sabine, in my eyes, had the least amount of things to do in this season. She really only had one episode, if I can remember, out of all 22 episodes. Um, she had one episode that really put her in the limelight and really put her like front and center, which was, I believe, episode number no, not 9, 8,
Yeah.
Blood Sisters.
Blood
This
Sisters
was
and I gave her credit for episode 13, The Protector of Concord Dawn, because I think that just dives a little into her Mandalorian roots.
That's true. That's true. Uh, uh yeah, yeah. Also, I think we both are probably going to have to apologize. We crammed these episodes. We were kind of busy this past week, and we crammed these episodes in. Um, I had a plan of like, oh, I'm going to watch two every single night. Ever since we finished season one, um, and then I had to house sit for 2 weeks, and all sorts of stuff happened, and so like the last 3 days, I had to binge like the last 12. It
Oh
was
yeah, I
insane.
binged the I put the 11 on while I was the last 11 on while I was working today. So
Oh
and
my
now granted,
god.
I've seen these like 3 or 4 times. So really it was just kind of listening to them, um,
This
and just
this
kind of
is
getting them
my
fresh in my mind.
this is my second viewing of the entire series. I have every once in a while like watched individual episodes, like thinking back on some things in particular. Um but overall this was a second viewing of mine. Um I'm trying to think if there was anything else with Sabine. Um with
I feel like those episodes are kind of just really telling to her. They open her up a little bit. It's just mainly backstory. She is definitely, I feel like, the secondary character, like you said, the season kind of gets left by the wayside, but she does get those 2 episodes to really kind of expand on her. We learn she's a part of House Vizsla,
mhm.
which we all know and love from Mandalorian, Clone Wars. Um, so that just kind of gives her a depth there to kind of say, okay, this is where she comes from. Um, but to me, she doesn't get a whole lot of growth this season. That really comes in the next season.
Yeah. Um you don't even get a whole lot of um interaction with the Rebels family with
Mhm.
her. It's a lot of growth still with Ezra and Kanan and uh and Hera, honestly. But the second or well, what other character do you want to go with next? Because that's really it for Sabine, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think the next one to kind of knock out there, Chopper. Chopper has 1 episode. It's episode 19,
Yep.
The Forgotten Droid, where he gets to meet a friend, AP5, who I learned um was actually based on Alan Rickman, the portrayal.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah. Which
That's
I thought
cool.
was a kind of a neat little reference there. Um, but Chopper's fun, hysterical, but he's also the droid, so he doesn't get a whole lot of love. He gets to save the day a couple times. Um, but really I feel like episode 19 is kind of where he's left.
Yeah, he Chopper doesn't have as many even like funny moments. And I will say, I think this is not necessarily a darker season. I think that it ends on a much darker note. Um, but there wasn't a whole lot of laughs in this season
Mhm.
like there was with the first season. Um, Episode 19 in particular, uh, I just love at the moment where the other droid uh is trying to
MP5.
speak. MP5 is talking to Hera and Kanan, and it's like,
Mhm.
oh, I am Chopper's friend, and Kanan's like, Chopper doesn't have any friends, and MP5 is like, yes, he does. Like, I am his friend. Like, he
Yep.
saved me, so I'm gonna save him and let y'all do y'all's thing. Um, and again, you see these deadly moments of Chopper where you're like, oh, he's just a droid. Because that's what a lot of people think. People just think, oh, he's just a droid, or that is just a droid. Chopper knows how to throw down if he needs to. He knocked
Yep.
the shit out of that guy several times.
Yes.
Um,
And it's kind of insane. And, like, even in that story, like, Chopper kind of telling us how Hera found him, from a downed Y-wing in the Clone Wars. She rescued him from there, and so AP5 is able to recite that back to Hera, and it just kind of tells us about Hera, but it tells us about Chopper, but it also tells us about Hera and how, like, she kind of risked everything to save this droid,
Yeah.
and that's why he feels so responsible at the end of the day for the ghost and Hera.
Yeah, very, very true. Um, next character, I would say, in retrospect to like the amount of character development, I actually think the next one would be Hera. Because I think,
Oh, I disagree, I
oh,
think.
really? You think
I
Zeb
think
is the next one?
yeah, I love Hera in this season. I love how she gets to open up. I think Zeb had they both have like two specific episodes where it like really like shows who they are as characters, but I think Hera had more to do over the entire season.
That's true. That's true. So let's go ahead and jump to Zeb. So Zeb in this episode or in this season played uh there's a moment where he actually gets to see his people. He
Mhm.
sees two survivors that were being captured by the Empire and transported. Um and these individuals actually knew Zeb. Um because Zeb was actually like he was a captain, a commander. I can't remember his title, uh, but he was very
Yeah, I
important
think he's a
and
captain.
captain in the honor guard. Um, and uh, we learn specifically from Kanan and Ezra that there's many different takes on what the force is. And we get to see some of that through the I always forget their freaking race,
Oh, Lasat.
Lasats, through the Lasats. Um, and I thought that was really cool, really touching moment where Zeb actually like he gets kind of emotional seeing his people. But my favorite episode in this entire season is actually episode 17, the honorable one. I think this shows a lot of growth in Zeb as an individual who is always trying to uh, like outright just kill Callus every chance that he gets.
Yeah.
Uh, Here they are stranded on an ice planet, super super cold ice planet, and they have to help each other survive. Um, and it's like this is just awesome. You get to know a little bit more about Zeb, his culture. Uh, we learn like Callus. He says something kind of like not necessarily heartwarming, but like it's like, hey, it's almost an I'm sorry to Zeb.
Yeah.
He says like, hey, I was there that day. Like it was not meant to be a slaughter. It just kind of happened. Um and again, it's not an art and I'm sorry, which I'm sure Zeb wouldn't have taken it anyway, but at least there's something there. Um this is very important uh to both of these characters in where they're going to be going, specifically one of these characters and where they're going to be heading by the end of the season or series. Uh, so I really, really loved this episode in particular. What about you?
I would have to agree. I think Zeb's episodes are some of the best of the season. Now, obviously, there's 2 3 others that are, like, up there, but, like, emotionally wise, Zeb really kicked it into high gear, um, and I hate that, like, it was kind of relegated to those 2 episodes, but, I mean, The Legends of Lasat is episode 14, so that kind of hits you late in the season, and at that point, you've kind of got to start closing things up and really, like, focus in on the rest of the story to kind of get you to the end of the season. So Zeb is one of my favorite characters in the last 2 seasons, just because I think he gets so much. But again, he's left by the wayside with the Mandalorian subplot in season 3, and then the Lethal subplot in season 4. So it's a two-edged sword for sure. But
Yeah, for sure. Um, you want to choose the next character we go through?
yeah, let's talk about Hera. So, Hera, the mother of the group. Oh my gosh, I love her so much in this season. She really gets to kind of take the piloting into high gear. We get to see her with is the B-wing this season, or it was last season?
Uh,
Oh no, it's
the
this season.
Yeah, it's the new ship that she grabs, right?
Yeah,
The
the
Wings of the
B-wings.
Master,
Yeah.
in episode 7.
Yeah. So she gets that, but like with the fact that the rebellion kind of came to help find Kanan at the end of season 1, we get to see her as kind of the leader of Spectre Squad and kind of becoming a major part of the rebellion and being a leader and stuff. And so her getting to lead the B-Wing mission and kind of fly that, we get to see her shine as Phoenix leader a lot throughout the season, and just really take charge, and she just kills it. Episode 7, like you said, Wings of the Master, is really good. And then seeing her interact with Cham Syndulla, who we met in the Clone Wars, and Cham Syndulla being her father and everything, that's just a really shining moment for her, to kind of stand up and be like, this is why I left. But I, at the same time, I was inspired by you to do this. And so it's a really powerful episode overall.
Yeah. I will mirror those sentiments. I really loved Hera's episodes this season. Specifically, episode 7 is probably my favorite out of her episodes. Um, because there's uh this idea of this world, and it's Rex who sends them this way, saying, "Oh, I think I know an engineer that will help you get the ship that you want to help us with this fleet." And when they get there, uh, it wasn't until they are literally about to crash land where Hera's like, "Hey, by the way, there's not a whole lot of people who come here because it's kind of a really hard time landing and taking off." And Zeb's like, "Why didn't you tell me that before we got here?" And she's like, "Well, you wouldn't have come if I told you beforehand." Um, but they land. This engineer is like really like there's a screw missing there, with how he takes everything into perspective, telling Hera things like, "Oh, well, just because I have a ship doesn't mean it's yours." It's like, "Oh, well,
Yep.
what else were you gonna do with it? Like, you can't even like." And that was the one thing, he builds them, he doesn't fly them, he doesn't know how to fly. So that was a really, really fun episode, and the amount of power that the B-wing had at the very end of the episode,
Oh, it's
um,
so awesome.
it was such a good show. Callus, and like his face when he sees the explosion, he's like, "That's impossible." Uh,
Mhm.
so really, really good storytelling there. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else, uh, specifically outside of her individual episodes, that really stood out to me.
It's really
Um,
just her, for me, it's just trying to, like, her getting to take a place in the rebellion,
yeah,
and kind of, like, she feels kinda second fiddle to Kanan in season 1, but in this season, like, she really, like, steps out and kind of puts her foot down with him, um, as kind of like a, "Hey, I know what I'm doing, thank you very much." But also, like, she wants to be around, so that's, I feel like there's a lot of good points for her overall.
there's a specific episode. I can't remember if it was episode 5. There are always 2 there are, or a different episode where in the very beginning, um, Kanan and Hera are having a discussion, and Kanan is saying like, "Hey, like you've convinced me. Like I'm all for this. Like being a rebel and like trying to save the galaxy and whatnot. But you need to find your place in all of this. You can't just,
Mhm.
be running around with your head cut off, basically. Um, and I actually think, actually, and one, if I think about it, I think that's episode 7, because he is like, "Hey, you need to do this," while me and Ezra will go and help with the supplies.
I think you're right.
So really, really good storytelling. Um, but speaking of Kanan, let's go ahead and jump to his portion of this season. Um, Kanan has uh, a very, very fun story in this season with getting over his despise, because I can't say he hates the clones, but his despise of clones. Of course,
Yeah.
we have seen through the Bad Batch that he had a very traumatic, uh, he saw his master die
Mhm.
due to clones, and he saw what Order 66 did to the rest of the Jedi, and so he didn't trust him. He did not trust clones whatsoever. Ahsoka uh, gives a mission to the rebels to go find Rex and all of them, uh, and this starts a very funny, awesome, odd relationship between Kanan and Rex. And it's a
Yeah.
relationship that I absolutely love, um, because they are butting heads, telling uh, 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 Kanan is saying to Rex's face, like, "I don't trust you. I don't trust you," and
Mhm.
it like I'm like, dude, like you're one of those people that are like clones aren't humans types of people like that's the kind of crap that I freaking hear like. But in episode 9, Stealth Strike, um, it warmed my heart that Rex gets captured near the end of the episode, and
Yep.
everybody is evacuating uh, the Star Destroyer that they were in, and Kanan's looking around. He's looking
Interdictor
around.
cruiser.
Yeah, that's right, the cruiser. Uh, Kanan's looking around and he senses him in the force. It's like, ah, crap. And and Ezra's like, Kanan, let's go. Like, what are you doing? He's like, sorry, I gotta go help my friend. And he goes and he saves Rex. I was like, yes, that is awesome. So I love that part. The growth that Kanan has here. To push that aside to know, okay, the this clone in particular, Rex, is here to help us, is he's gonna have my back if I ask for it. Um, there isn't a lot of training with Kanan and Ezra in this season. Is something that I did notice. Um, there's mentioning of it. There's like, oh, I'm gonna have to teach you that, or like, didn't I tell you to do this? And there's moments like that that I noticed that are a lot in here. So you can tell that in the background, in between episodes, there is training going on, but there isn't as
Yeah.
much seeing it on the screen. Which I kind of wish would still be a thing. Going into season 2, just because we know like, hey, Ezra still needs to be trained. And I understand that that's probably like, hey, this would be a much longer season if we had that.
Yeah. I I'm gonna disagree with you up front because I feel like the whole first half of the season, Ezra is kind of like, oh, I wish I could like stop having training, like because specifically in episode 6 where we get Hondo, um,
Oh,
he
that's
was
true.
having
Yeah.
training with Rex, and then Kanan was like, "You're late for Jedi training," and then Hera's like, you didn't scrub the deck or scrub the carbon scoring, I think is actually what she said. So he runs away from that. And it's like a lot of it because he does the same thing with Always Two There Are. He's trying to get away from Rex and Kanan overwhelming him with training, and he's trying to just be a part of the rebellion in a normal fashion.
Yeah.
So,
That's true. That's true. Which, by the way, like, I love Hondo so much. And like it. he even references that he had like a Jedi best friend. That's Ahsoka. That's
That's not
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka. That's the
Or
youngling. That's the youngling. Kilani, I think.
really?
I,
I would think it was
I
either
always
Ahsoka
assumed
or
he was.
Anakin.
Uh-uh. That is it's the youngling. I can't remember what her name is.
Which youngling?
Um. Okay, hang on.
In Clone Wars?
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to go back to Clone Wars then, because I don't remember that.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I know who she is. Her name starts with a K.
Well, like my big thing is like when I saw this episode the first time, not this time around because I knew, of course, it's not gonna
Toonie.
happen. Toonie. Um, trying to think. Share your screen real quick so I can
Yeah.
remember who that is.
I'm pulling her up.
But like when I first watched this episode for the very first time, my first thought, oh, I remember her. Okay. Okay. Katuni.
He
Okay.
even names her ship after her.
Oh. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Did not know that. Very, very interesting. Uh, but
Okay.
I would have really liked if Ahsoka had the chance because, like, at this point, Ahsoka is like a part of the show, and I'm just like, why couldn't Hondo and Ahsoka just have one interaction right there, like just one?
Yeah.
Uh, but it's still good nonetheless. We see more backstory from Ezra. Or well, hold on, we haven't even moved to Ezra yet. We're still on Kanan. Um, Kanan, uh, other than the training and whatnot, we have his Shroud of Darkness episode. I think this was a very, very cool episode. This is where, of course, they go back to uh, Lothal, and uh, we see Ahsoka, him, and Ezra go to the Jedi Temple, and
Yep.
they all go and have their own little journey, individual journeys. Uh, Ezra sees Yoda, and uh, Kanan has this duel with the uh, Jedi Centennials. Um, this was very, very cool. The reveal at the end of the episode, my first time around, I was like, "What?" Seeing the Grand Inquisitor there, I was like, oh, wow, that makes no sense whatsoever. What's going on? Um, but I think it's so cool. Um, so I really, really enjoyed that moment. Uh, but getting to, of course, the end of the season, um, it's a very dark time for Kanan. Figuratively and literally, from here on out. Um, he and this is where I feel like there probably wasn't enough training and connection with Ezra in him,
Yeah.
and that's what led to what happened here. Uh, because of course we get the reintroduction to Maul. Um,
Fucking Sam Witwer. Oh my gosh.
It's so his voice is so good. It's I love it. I absolutely love it. Um, and I love how the the episodes here on Disney Plus are still formatted the way that they formatted them when they were on live television. So like there's these moments that are clearly for like commercial break. And there's a
Yep.
moment in one of these episodes where uh Darth Maul is like, a real name. I had one of those before, but now my name is Maul. And like the music gets really, really loud, and then it cuts to black, and then it just starts over again. I was like, you had a really good moment there, and then it just kind of just goes away. But I love the season finale. But the whole thing with Kanan, like, hey, like trying to reach out to Ezra, like, hey, you can't trust this guy, you don't know him, all of these
Mhm.
different things, and and Ezra's not really listening. And I think that shows that there was a disconnect between them this
I
season.
think that's the biggest thing though, as because Ezra, like at the beginning or in season 1, he has to learn how to be a trusting person in the Force. And not having that Jedi training, like, from the start, being a youngling, I mean, Kaden started teaching him when he was 15 years old. So, it's very much like he's already had some things ingrained of him, and to kind of go from not trusting who he was, um, before season 1 to having to trust and open himself up to the Force in season 1, and then getting here to the end in Twilight of the Apprentice, um, I think it's just, like you said, kind of not enough training, but also it's the issue of why the Jedi wanted to start training people from birth versus letting them get older and experience the world and then come in for training.
Yeah, yeah. But this season ends with Maul, of course, being Maul and being hungry for power and uh wanting to exact his revenge, and the possessiveness that he holds on Ezra was so weird to me. I don't think I caught on to it the first time around, but Maul literally says in this last episode, Ezra will be mine.
Yep.
All of this will be mine. And he attacks Kanan, and
Mhm.
we don't see Kanan at all until we see him from like the bicep down, grab a mask, he puts it on, and then we see him with Chopper. Chopper's holding his hand. Chopper's like
Yep.
guiding him. And then they take the holocron. Um, he does fight Maul, which I think is a really, really cool fight. And again,
Yeah.
you don't know, and clearly, like I think it's funny. Um, of course, being an adult, being very perspective in these things, you clearly know what happens to Kanan, but they just don't tell you. It is just like, come on, like we we,
Yeah.
we know what happened. Uh, but I love the sound design here. Um, so Kanan is in his ready stance, which his stance completely changes once this happens.
Yeah. He
I
goes to the
love that.
reverse grip.
He goes to a reverse grip, which is a very defensive stance. Um, I absolutely love the attention to detail here. He goes into the reverse hilt stance, and he has his head low, and you start to the camera moves to Maul's feet, and then you hear like an echoing with the shuffling of the feet and everything else.
Yep.
Such a good just choreography and everything else there. Um, but at the end of the episode, we see everybody on the ghost. It kind of goes through to see where everybody's like sitting, where they're at, because they technically they quote unquote won, but they also lost. And we see Kanan. It goes from the front of the ghost to the back of the ghost, and we see Kanan with like this mechanical thing on his head. And then he turns his head to the left, and you see a bandage over his eyes. So clearly, Maul, blinded him. Um, and I think that is such, like, knowing what we know now, already seeing season 3 and season 4, and I had the luxury of watching all seasons all at once. I wasn't watching this live. So, you know, the idea of like, man, he's blinded. What is he going to do now? Um it's kind of crazy to think like, okay, he was this, the only Jedi in the show, of course, in the very beginning. He is what we say he's Spectre 1, right?
Yeah, Spectre One.
Assumingly the leader then. So he goes from this leader, this very strong leader, and now he has such a huge hindrance. Um and I guess for people who, of course, know Star Wars, you have to remember the things that Obi-Wan has said in,
Mhm.
training Luke, don't trust your eyes and all of these things. So it's fun to look back on those things and seeing how he will grow in the next few seasons.
For sure. I say it'll be very interesting. Like you said, we have the benefit, and I watched all the seasons at once too. Um, so it was an adventure. Um, but like it's preparing him for this change was interesting over the season, especially the knighting ceremony that he gets in Shroud of Darkness. Um, it's super important to him as a character, and I think that's just setting him up for his next stage. Um, reclaiming his name, who he was as a Jedi. So,
Yeah, very,
um,
very good stuff indeed.
yeah. You talked about the music. The music in this season is just phenomenal. Um, like Twilight of the Apprentice kills it, Shroud of Darkness kills it. But also episode 10, The Future of the Force. Um, it's it's one of the first main episodes with Ahsoka as a character in the story. Obviously, she's been in previous episodes. Um, but this one kind of really involves her, and kind of is our first look into her as a not Jedi, just as a warrior trying to protect someone. Um, the lightsaber fights in the Future of the Force and Twilight of the Apprentice are some of the best in Star Wars of all time. Point blank.
Yes. Now, one thing that I do not agree with, not in any of your takes, but just with how animators make things nowadays, um, due to uh, individuals with epilepsy, when it comes to giant flashing lights and things like that, if you notice during a lot of the lightsaber fights, the entire screen will go dim in some parts of these lightsaber fights, and it's due to the fact that there was a family that did sue a programming studio. I think it was for anime that caused like their child to have an epileptic attack, and so like from then on, like animators were like, hey, we can't do this anymore or we're gonna get sued, and so they dimmed all of their fight scenes. So it's one thing that I will always notice, and I'm like, it would look so much better if I could actually see what's going on instead of just the lightsabers.
Maybe it's the way I have my television. Yeah, maybe it's the way I have my television set up, but I that's not a big deal to me. And especially with my migraines, because I do, if there's like a club scene or something, like it can very much give me vertigo,
Yeah.
which can trigger a migraine attack. So I appreciate it.
No, but thank you for reminding me, episode 10, The Future of the Force. This is what was going to connect my discussion from the trailer to our discussion for Rebel season 2. We know that David Tennant's character from Clone Wars, uh uh uh
Hu
uh
Yang.
Hu Yang, is going to be making an appearance in Ahsoka. And we know that they saved a whole bunch of Force users in the Future of the Force. Is there going to be a callback to that maybe? Are we going to see some of these individuals? Now, again, we know that uh, in the future, per Force Awakens, technically per the Last Jedi, we know that Obi-Wan can, or not Obi-Wan, Jesus, Luke Skywalker
Mhm.
had his own academy, had a place to train individuals. And we also know from Shadow of the Sith that there was plenty of other people for Luke Skywalker to train.
Right.
So, just saying, like, I think that there is a possibility of dropping some nuggets, some little crumbs in Ahsoka to call back to this episode. What do you think?
I could see it. Especially with the revelation in this last trailer, like Sabine calling Ahsoka master. Um, it could be very telling. The other question I have with Sabine calling her master is this like how does it tie in with Grogu? Because obviously Mando brought Grogu to Ahsoka for training, but then she passed him off. So like it's just kind of a hot mess. I feel like I'll be
Yeah,
interested to see how they tie all that in because I don't feel like Ahsoka I feel like Ahsoka is definitely a way seeker. It by like High Republic terms.
yeah,
So I and way seekers to me like they weren't really like training people. So yeah, I
true.
could see it though.
Yeah,
It could be a nice callback, especially with the music at play. We know the Kiner brothers are scoring the Ahsoka show. Um and like I was we were watching it and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." Like this is cinematic, people. Like jeez.
um, but that leaves us to the last character, Ezra. So why don't you lead us on with Ezra's character and in his character development?
So Ezra gets a lot this season. I have one, two, three, four, five, six, 7 episodes for him that I just kind of marked down that were like key episodes, and some of them could probably like you could probably excuse, but for me, I was like I feel like these are important to him. So I had always two there are Brothers of the Broken Horn. And then I had let's see, I had Stealth Strike Legacy, and then 15, which is the call, because that's the introduction of the Purgles. And I think that's just a very key episode for especially the last season. And then I had obviously the Twilight of the Apprentice. So those were the episodes that I had for
Yeah,
him.
I would probably say Twilight of the Apprentice could almost count as one episode because it is a
Yeah.
two-parter. Um, I would probably also throw in um I would probably say Relics of the Old Republic also. Um this was at the very end they were surrounded by
Yeah.
uh the Empire, and this is Kanan telling Ezra like, "Hey, you need to trust yourself." And this is Ezra being able to use the Force in a very meaningful way to
Yeah.
have a successful mission.
It's a
Um,
very good point.
and again, this at the end of that episode, also a very good connecting point to Ezra and Kanan, in like, hey, like Ahsoka said, like this is her friend, and we can't just abandon them. We need to save them, and all of that. Um, which at the very end of that episode, uh, Sabine, Kanan, and Ezra all jump out of the Phantom, and like Rex is like, "Oh, just like old
Yeah.
times." And that just warmed my heart a little bit. That was
Such a
awesome.
great episode. Yeah.
Um, so I would agree with all of those episodes actually. There was the uh Brothers of the Broken Horn. Um, we see a little bit of that rebelling kid in Ezra again, like,
Mhm.
and it's just I think it's funny that they chose Hondo to be a key character in this episode, just because like what's like it's very stereotypical. Like, oh, you don't want to listen to your parents and do all this stuff. Like, oh, go be a pirate. Think about freaking Peter Pan. Like, what do? You go off to Neverland and fight off pirates and all stuff like that. Like, it's a very tropey thing.
Yeah.
So having them together, I thought was really really fun. Um, the future of the Force, I thought that was really really fun as well. Um, and Legacy. Well, I think also in the very beginning, was it Legacy and Princess of Lothal? I think it was when they introduce Clancy Brown's character. Um,
Yeah. That's
and
I think Legacy is the first one he's in.
yeah, um, and we learn about his parents' fate. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
this is the one that we finally get actual confirmation that his parents are dead. From Clancy Brown's character, I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Riz
Um,
Ahmadi.
Riz, that's right, Riz. Uh, so yeah,
And that
I
the fact that they were inspired by Ezra's speech at the end of season 1, to kind of lead that prison break, I think it helps. I
yeah,
think it helped. Like
yeah,
Ezra be able to move on and stuff.
I think that is really cool too. It is a little sad to know that like, hey, they were right there, but like,
Yeah.
but it's still a heartwarming thing to know that like, hey, they heard me, and they
Yeah.
were they were coming to try to find me. Um, I think the biggest thing with Ezra this season is Twilight of the Apprentice because it
Yeah.
leaves us on the biggest cliffhanger. Um, that I don't think a lot of people were expecting probably when they watched this live. Um, you have the very ignorance is bliss when it comes to Ezra in his very quick relationship with Maul. Um, very trustworthy. Because in all honesty, like other than the fact that they are running away from the Empire, this is technically what a Jedi should do.
Yeah.
Trust, help, protect, whatever. And you know, Maul was just whispering some sweet, sweet secrets of how to defeat the one enemy that they're trying to defeat, right?
Yep.
So uh this like I'm still like very in awe of Whitwer's performance in this episode. I thought it was very, very well done, very, very fun. And at the very end, when they are able to get the holocron off of the battle station, again, Ezra tries to save Ahsoka. They have to escape, and on the Ghost, we see him at the very end of the episode, literally seconds at the end of the episode. Um, we see him with the holocron. Uh, it is starting to open, and he looks up, and he has what looks like reddish eyes, but I assume that is from, of course, the reflection of the holocron. But of course, it is the teasing that he is tapping into the dark side.
Yeah. And it's something that's going to be expanded upon in season 3. So we'll talk about it more then. But it's not only like Ezra getting that, but it's just such a beautiful episode overall. Um, Visually, getting Vader back in there, Ahsoka finally coming to terms with the fact that Vader is Anakin. The whole episode is just one of my favorites of Star Wars television, and like I can't believe it took me so long to see this episode because I didn't see it probably until 2020 when we were waiting for Clone Wars season 7 to come out.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to watch. I feel like I need to watch this and like Star Wars and everything. So it was a lot.
It I really enjoy this. Of course, this by this time, Force Awaken had already come out,
Yep.
which is why when they get on Malachor and they see like the giant battlefield, we see Ezra pick up the lightsaber, the crossguard lightsaber,
Yep.
and I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's the lightsaber! It's the crossguard!" Um, which he's able to turn on for a split second, but then it goes out, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, I that entire episode, I feel like we could have probably had an entire episode on just these two episodes. Um, the discussion between Vader and Ahsoka, uh, so good.
Mhm.
It's all the way from the beginning, when we, uh, I think it was, I can't remember if it was I think it was the beginning of this season where Vader like
Yeah.
feels her in the Force, when they're in that firefight at the very beginning of the season, and then here, I well, actually, it was in the Shred of Darkness. We get her little moment with Anakin, um, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
with
why
the
didn't you
holocron.
say? No, it was her.
Oh, in the
Uh,
temple.
she was meditating, and then like you see him. It's like, oh, why didn't you like come and save me or whatever? And it very clearly like irritated her and got to her, and then of course here it goes full circle, and I really enjoyed that, and of course poetic for uh for how their relationship started and ended here, um crazy. I
Yeah.
still love, he uh, Darth Vader has said it many times. So it's clearly true. But every single time Darth Vader says that he killed Anakin Skywalker, gives me chills.
100%. Because it's so deadly, and you're like, you really didn't do it, though, like, you are Anakin Skywalker, but it's like, at the same time, like, Anakin was dead, like, completely dead, until Luke came back and got him. So, it's frightening.
But I think that is it. Again, guys, those are all of the characters. Uh in regards to, of course, this season does have a lot more than the first season, so there will be a little bit more required viewing. um but in regards to how we were kind of talking about it in the uh aspect of like, okay, which characters are we needing to follow in order to, be caught up for the Ahsoka series, I'm going to go ahead and say that you will need to, okay, out of the first 5 episodes, the Siege of Lothal, Lost Commander, Relics of the Old Republic, always two there are. Which ones do you think there you need to see of those 5? Because I think we're gonna need to take this in segments because there's just way too many episodes.
So, I okay. So out of the first 5, I said The Siege of Lothal and Always 2 There Are. My honorable mentions are The Lost Commanders and Relics of the Old Republic. Those are my only 2 honorable mentions.
Yes, I will go ahead and say that as well. I think the Siege of Lothal is important, to all of our characters. Um, of course, it does reintroduce Ahsoka into the series again because she was introduced at the very end of season 1. Um, Always two there are, very important. I think that the episodes 3 and 4 are just fun overall. I think that they are
Yeah.
really good, honorable mentions. Episodes 6 through 10, I'm gonna go ahead and say that, due to the fact that now we have a little bit more information from this trailer of Ahsoka, knowing that, it is going to be heavily Sabine related also, I think that the Blood Sisters, just to get kind of your look at Sabine, is probably something that you can watch, as well as the future of the Force. What do you think?
So I'm gonna disagree on Blood Sisters just because I don't think that like I think that's giving us a little information, but I think more of Sabine's story is mainly focused in season 3. So I
Okay.
don't have Blood Sisters on my list. I do have the future of the Force.
Okay, okay. Um, would you say Wings of the Master? Because Hera's going to be in Ahsoka, or no?
I feel I as much as enjoy that one, I feel like that one's not huge into the story. If I had to include a hero one, um, which I was debating putting this on my honorable mentions, it would be Homecoming.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. Out of the next five, Legacy through the Call, it's Legacy, Princess of Lothal, Protector of Concord Dawn, Legends of the Lasat, and the Call. I'm gonna go ahead and say Legacy and the Call are gonna be the two that you watch from these five.
Yep, that's what I got.
All right. And then we're gonna go ahead and gather the last seven. Uh Homecoming, The Honorable Ones, Shroud of Darkness, Forgotten Droid, Mystery of Chopper Base, and then of course Twilight of the Apprentice. I'm gonna go ahead and say Shroud of Darkness and Twilight of the Apprentice. What about you?
So yeah, and apparently I actually did I can't read my list that I wrote. I did actually have Homecoming in the main recommendations list. Um,
Okay.
and I think now that I think about it, just because it ties in so much to the Clone Wars, but it also kind of gives you that opening into who Hera is. Like I said when I was debating it on the honorable mentions list, I think that's a really good one for Hera. I think but like you said, like I said with Sabine, Hera, we go to Ryloth next season and we get like Hera's Kalikori and stuff. So I think a lot of Hera and Sabine will come into play next season.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I agree. Shroud of Darkness and Twilight of the Apprentice. Every episode that Ahsoka is a major part in, we've included on this list.
Yeah.
Um, that will kind of get you through her story, I feel like.
So looking at it, we have a total of 10 episodes with two honorable mentions. Um, that being episodes 3 and 4 as the honorable mentions. So again, it is technically half of the season, but it's another half that you don't have to watch, you know. So uh so far from our first season to our second, we're literally cutting each season in half. Um which saves you a lot of time in regards to knowing what to watch. So that is nice. But that is going to be it for this episode, I do believe. Nothing else on the docket as of right now. Next week, guys, remember we do have the last command, which we will be
Dark Force
uh,
Rising.
oh yeah, that's right. Dark Force Rising. Sorry. It's Dark Force Rising is the book review that we're going to be talking about. Um and Katie actually brought up a really good point in our Star Wars Alliance conversation that is going to be playing a part into next week conversation. We will bring that up when we do. But it is a book review, so if you guys have not read that book, it's going to be, of course, surrounding our discussions with Thrawn as well, who is also going to be making an appearance in Ahsoka. We know this already. And Katie just likes to torture me with having to reread this book over and over and over again. Um,
We should have talked about it when you read it. I'm
we
sorry.
we we probably should have. But we will be talking Dark Force Rising next week. Um, and we won't get to season 3 of Rebels until the beginning of August, and then it's a full road ahead to, of course, Ahsoka. So
Yep. I think before Ahsoka starts, we've got Rebel season 3, Tarkin, and then Rebel season 4. Right?
yes.
Is that what we have?
Yes, and in our discussion after Rebel season 4 will be any predictions that we have for
Yep.
Ahsoka. So that'll be a fun discussion to have as well. But guys, thank you so much for lasting this long. Of course, you can find me at Fanboy Clay on Twitter, on Threads. Now, I guess we haven't really had the time to pump that out. Now, again, Threads is something that is still developing, so we don't necessarily know how to like switch through accounts and stuff, which is kind of annoying. I think you have to manually sign out and then sign back in to
Yeah.
your Twitter account and then connect that. It's a whole mess of things, but we will get to it eventually. Um, find me on Threads, find me on Instagram, Twitter. Uh, but yeah, also go check out Ranger Alliance and Batman News Weekly.
Yes. Y'all, you can find me on any social media platform. It's at Slice Katie, except for TikTok. I still don't have a TikTok. Okay, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm just too consumed by other things. Um, if you want to find my other show on the Geek Ultimate Podcast Network, that is on Twitter. It's at Slice the Film One. Remember that show is going into its final month. So greatly appreciate all the support that I've gotten on that show. But again, just got a lot on my plate. So we're closing it out, but we will be releasing Mission Impossible 7, and then Barbie and Oppenheimer to close out all of July. So that will be a blast. So y'all should come listen in because a lot of good movies happening right now. And I got to talk about Christopher Nolan. I'm sorry, we just got to talk about Christopher Nolan. And apparently that super steamy sex scene that Nolan didn't know how to film about. Uh, um, this show you can find on Twitter. It's at Star Wars Alliance without the A, and the war is very important. Don't forget it. Um, as we have said, Dark Force Rising and Last Command. So if you haven't read the Thrawn trilogy, you can either take a break from us in the next 2 weeks because that's what we'll be talking about, or just come join in the fun and like make fun of Clay as he doesn't like Thrawn. But we'll also talk a lot about Mara Jade, my favorite character. So it's a win-win. Um, please don't skip. I'm kidding when I say just skip us. So yeah, that's the plan, and obviously any news that comes up, because obviously, um, San Diego Comic-Con is coming. So we've got a lot of High Republic panels and publishing panels coming out of that, and I know that is a big chunk of our audience, which we greatly appreciate because I love talking about publishing stuff. So that is what you can expect from us, guys. And as always, thanks for being here. I hope you all have a wonderful day or night, whatever time of day you are listening or watching, and we will see y'all next time. May the force be with you.